interesting is I feel like dance is not always legible for people and it's not quite like reading a book. But if you can get yourself involved, because everybody lives within the home of their body, so we can all relate, um, then it's just a different way of thinking, adapting, problem solving. So, an idea within Laban movement would be effort that I would like to break down. And I feel like people here can relate to this of what kind of effort are you applying into the work that you're doing. And under the umbrella of effort would be flow, weight, time, and space. And within the elements of this, if it's really free flow or sustained, indirect, you can just start getting more variables and how that's interesting within your own awareness. And to take this even a little bit further, because it's all about framing your skill sets in the room and then in a leader position when you're crafting the space around you, you can start seeing where things are working, and then it's strengthening that muscle of how you know when something is working, how long you can commit to unwrapping an idea, or where you just stop, start over. So this challenges how you are framing time, speed, tempo, collaboration, and all of that. And I think something within brain science, if you will, that really catches your eye is a musical term called counterpoint, which is melodies playing in accordance with each other, but with a steady factor. So something is held as a rule, and then something could go over a bass. So if you're watching anything, I feel like your brain gets sharper when there is a risk factor involved, because then it's like you get involved. You can have empathy of feeling what that's to like to see somebody wipe out, fall. The involvement of that is really exciting. And if it's stable and nothing's at risk, then I feel like you can't get as immersed within it. So if I don't see screens, but if you guys can hear and take this away, I would invite you to notice or choose actually a point on your own body. So thinking about your knee joints, sternum, shoulder blades, armpits, side body, and just how they feel in that moment and how do they sort of connect to each other. And I'm even thinking now, if I went from the point of my shoulder, the distance from my chin, and in order to meet it, we'd have to investigate the idea of rotation or meeting, and one would be held, or if it came together in this way. And even that, if you made the point of meeting, so if this was my shoulder was the held point and fixed in space, and it was just laid as a curvature, and you met it, then this stays as the priority, and the rest of your body sort of gets activated and warmed up, and you feel naturally what else gets involved. Oh, I would feel my opposing left hip getting lengthened, strengthened, activated. And even I feel like these ideas too can go into the simplest form of walking. If you can just start to notice, because you'd feel your brain turn on in a different way, and that is very healthy and continued, especially in the state that we're all in today, where it's perhaps a little more leveled out and mundane. It could awaken and sharpen what's going on and just reset the tone for you. If you feel an initiation point in walking from the back of your heel, from the top of your head, even the idea or question of bending down to pick something up? Are you noticing the opposing rise of the top of your head? Because that is an action that we all know, and it's a basic principle in ballet called a plie, when you just bend. We'll get up and fully demonstrate ballet now. But it's bending and straightening. And it's something we all know and do in different practices. But if you can start something as that simply, if you have to reach down and bend something or to pick something up, what parts of you are you calling upon to make that action possible, and perhaps rethink about it and invite yourself to angle your focus of attention and putting your intention on a point of view and like making that the anchor, so you can start to feel physically different, perhaps lose some tension that you are holding on to, and it wakes up the brain body. Furthermore, when you investigate your body in all these different vertical, horizontal dimensions, and then inverting, sorry, I'm getting more into like principles right now, and these are some basic ideas that, and everybody does them. If you are jogging or whatever, and that's a way where creativity stems from, this is a perfect thing of just getting in touch with body awareness. So some basic principles here would be folding and unfolding. So if I have a forearm here, and then rotating and inverting, and you could just try and practice different parts of you that fold and unfold. And then you'll just start to notice what, in a cause and effect way, and your impulses start to come alive. If I fold and match anything here, well, I guess if you had a one and then matched in with the other and twisted, what would this, I would feel an initiation point in my hips. And then that sort of leads into a principle of circling. And your body is just filled with constant loops of circles, and its rotation, it's the axis of the larger home of our Earth, and you just break it into smaller particles that live within our own cells. So when I am building a piece of choreography, whether it's for a conservatory or company platform, or it's in an art museum or any sort of environmental collaboration with nature, other sort of thinkers, I'd approach it in the way of puzzle piecing. And that's when it's really exciting for me, and I don't always know the end result, and I don't approach this kind of work of telling a story or having an emotion to base off of it. And a lot of times when I watch other people's work and you give a sort of talk back after, and then there's like a thesis to follow it, I always see a disconnect of the work itself and then the words and that sort of language to sort of justify what's happened. So I think if we start to activate the closeness of looking and seeing this moving physical landscape as an exercise for our brains, and to just sort of starting to let that in and how that affects us, I think will sharpen your everyday awareness. And back to the creation process, I begin by seeing what are the components and elements that I have in front of me. And if it's the collaborators, if there's a piece of music, I usually let the music sort of sit in my the back of my head and my subconscious. And I would revisit it because instead of trying so hard to match perfectly a set of material to the melody of sound, which is really exciting and satisfying for a viewer, which is a major participation and essential for the process of live art. It's like I feel creatively blocked. I can't always do it that way. But if you, sometimes the music and the movement bring you answers and solutions. So you sort of surrender in that space and let yourself be surprised. And that goes with everything in part of this process. So if you are working with someone and you find that something's not working and you're like, you realize that sometimes the dancers or the musicians are telling you something, and when it's your job to step away and sort of back out of that sphere, because you have to step within the solution to know how that's feeling inside of your body. And this connects to, I think, any sort of job. It's knowing how to lead and orchestrate a space for people to feel creatively free and safe to discuss their point of view and their approach. And then it's all about how you piece things together. So I look at life as choreography. I truly believe that. And the way that I have seen problem solving or solutions or people coming together, or the way that I listen to people, I'm already sort of seeing from this outside space, fascinating. How are these people or these ideas going to come together? And sometimes, that one doesn't, this concept doesn't work. So you have to trim it away. So it's like constantly crafting a piece of artwork. And poetry, all this, I don't know, I think it's so fascinating, and it just gets you so aware of your physical and emotional space, and that it's all connected. So I know I'm bouncing around like crazy here, but if you, wherever you are, this is a really great exercise, like I was saying, with finding points of space and just getting that awareness in your body. You can also do this within the physical space around you. So this is an exercise of noticing the architecture that you're in, taking it in, and how you can physicalize it by mirroring, either quite literally or in opposition to it. So if I notice there's a dresser right here in front of me, and if I were to let my mind go, have it reset, notice my posture and my breath flow again, if I wanted to draw the base of it, I can take it from either just simply painting it with my arm, and in that way, even you can break that down. You can lift up from the back support, even from like underneath your hips, and that carves it. And then you're already starting to know what parts of me were involved in doing that. Sorry, this is a little rip from my puppies in the sweater. And it could be that simple. Differentiate the weight, the effort, and the shape. So this nice little curvature of my arm, which again goes back to that idea of that movement analysis technique. Just with the arm, and then bringing it down. So if you keep building this repetition, I guess it's not repetition, it's just a build, you start to see what other ideas come up. And there is no right answer, there is no wrong answer. It's just getting yourself involved in the space that you're in a totally different way that might be unique to your guys's process and what you do and how you carry out your work. Even the idea of locomotion within your hips and pelvic floor, which is the base for everybody, the hip space, the roundness, that ball that carries and leads you, even coming up to the awareness of what we would say is core distal, which is the core support, expanding to all of your limbs in space. And this is really the center and the home. So even just powering in the acknowledgement of that place from belly button all the way shooting through the back of your spine and having these 2 points come out in space. So it's radiating energy in front of you, behind you, in the circular pattern. And then with that idea, I believe that sort of translates to the space in front and like making actual points in front of you, behind you. And that gets the idea of a 9-point sphere. I would truly recommend researching more of Laban, which is spelled Laban, and they do have a conservatory in London, and this is a great strategy for really getting in touch with the different folds, rotations, twists, anatomical description parts, all of these performing efforts within your body. I will pause to say, does anyone have any questions? Because I know that was a lot of information. I'm just gonna keep going. I think these ideas too constantly require you to ask, what if? And if not this, then what? And that I feel like will leave you in a constantly excited and never bored position, because you're noticing, what have I not yet noticed in the space around me? If you were to think about telling a story from a different angle point, and then how to rewind, start it over, and do it from a different angle. And you can do that a million times over, and the things that you would learn and discover from that. And I think that would open up sort of the gates of your own compassion and understanding. And some questions as well that I would invite you to ask yourself is, are you aware of the position of your neck when you're speaking with somebody? I find that if I'm listening or engaged in conversation, I naturally would like stick out my neck, and there's really no reason to do that. But that posture immediately takes place, and then you don't even notice how much you hold back here. So if you can have a little buzz in your mind to just tune in to the physicality and the sensation of what that, or if that does not happen for you, whatever it is, but just to notice it, and then to sort of have a moment of reeling it back and adjusting back into a solid sphere. And then the exciting part as well is to completely disorient where you are. So having this place, recharging, disorienting with those other ideas of, again, posture and stance, the building all the particles. Even if you think about your arm and how wide, but if you can just build all the little bones in the fingertips up until the little wrist, and if you hold it, but then you could just, like, you realize already everything that has to go into this being held, and then the points from here to your elbow, up into your shoulder, and to expand it out to your width. And that's something in dance that we call vertebra, and it is in correlation with the other parts of our lower half, and there's a basic set of rules that we follow in the basis of ballet. And for choreography, I really call upon other qualitative styles, whatever the moment calls for. That's how I work. So I would feel like in that moment of groove, if this felt like it needed sort of an element from the home of jazz, or if it is from the footwork of ballet or folk dancing or hip hop. I think the underbelly of all of it is shared because movement is movement. I'm seeing our little time over here, so I would also like to offer this question of if you notice your backspace when you're entering into a room. And I find a lot of times if I feel confident and I'm entering with my full self, I do have that sense of width and horizontal expansion in my back. And if it's something where it's a little bit more of a hidden feeling in a concave, then I definitely don't have that awareness, and it like instantly shrinks your sphere around you. So that's just something also to keep in mind, how wide, how expansive we all are from the vertical horizontalness. And that's just like you are one long spine, one large thinking body and brain. This is all one brain. And how expansive your horizontal space is as well. And even in the ways, I didn't even get into the ideas of partnering, which from choreographing on a duet is my favorite thing to do and favorite place to start with, because there's such a story between two people by nature of just having that in the space. And then you start to add all these layers of content and poetry. And I think if you have this time to let that wash through your eyes and let that be knowledge and material to just soak up, you will, I hope, find something very interesting and take that away. But within physical contact with somebody as well, if you were to go in for a hug, it's vulnerable to be aware of even the time that you're taking. And I know it's a different situation each time, but would you, like, what parts of your body are involved and what part of the other person are you aware of or that you soften into? So it's all just getting yourself associated. I'm seeing notes now and I'm down to the last minute. So please, if anyone has ideas, questions, I'm writing in my email right now. I do a lot of different work with these choreographic principles. I've been, woohoo, that's my email. I also work all over the world, which sounds quite like large and expansive, but a lot of different collaborative projects with many different types of people and work and thinkers. So if this is anything that sort of buzzed, would be so happy to send materials that have inspired me, any of my own work. I know that was a lot of information. I just felt compelled to let it keep spinning, but it is officially 10:30. So thank you guys for your time. And let's see